Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor. This is Sports Daily on Wichita's #1 sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Monday edition of Sports Daily. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor alongside you here. Jad Chambers producing. Happy to be here. Start another work week with you. Jad Chambers producing, 869-1240. He'll take your calls on the IHOP hotline as we make our way through. Lots of giveaways, movie fans, an exciting few days of giveaways for you. All kinds of good stuff coming. Tommy, how are you? How was the weekend?
Busy weekend, a little tired this morning. It was one of those weekends where you're just going nonstop, and then you get to the end of it and you're like, was that even a weekend? Like, I feel like I'm more tired now than I was at the start of it, but here we go, back at it on a Monday. Let's go.
Yeah, we usually got a few hours of soccer on Saturdays and maybe some birthday party stuff on Saturday. It's every weekend.
Yeah,
it's coming. It's coming as your kids get older, Tommy. There is no weekend. What's a weekend?
Well, my wife had a baby shower on Saturday, so that pretty much took up the entire day. And luckily, I didn't have to attend, but I was on toddler duty for most of the day, and so it was fun. It was a good time, but a little tired this morning.
It is. It was tired staying up watching basketball last night too, and hockey. I actually watched the Stars Kraken game as I was getting some work done, which was. I loved that hockey was on that late. Like, it was like 11:30 last night, and the game was that's cool. I may be watching some Stanley Cup. I don't know any of the players or anything, but it was fun. Yeah, it was good. It was good if you're a Kraken fan. I'm not like, I know I'm a Rangers and a Cowboys fan. I'm not like a Stars fan or anything. So I thought it was cool. Basketball playoffs have been great. So we got 4 series going, and 2 of them now are tied up at 2 games apiece, and we'll find out about the other 2. The Warriors and the Knicks a chance to tie those 2 series up at 2 games apiece tonight. But we are getting what we'd hoped for out of these series. 76ers Celtics goes to overtime on Sunday. Suns Nuggets go down to the wire last night, and the Suns heard what Tommy had to say, and they didn't like it one bit. Landry Shamet lights it up late. The former Shocker was just unstoppable late in that game, hit 5 threes. Devin Booker's on just an unreal tear right now. Nikola Jokic goes for 53 and 11 in the loss. Like that game was nuts. And I love it. I love that series. And I think it's far from over, and Denver's, we'll have to see what happens with Jokic, and we'll get into this in just a second with his little shove. But we've got really good NBA playoffs right now. I mean, it is top to bottom. It has been every bit as good as we'd hoped.
Yeah, the script has been completely flipped in the Phoenix and Denver series. When we talked on Friday, the Nuggets were up 2-0. I thought, all right, well, this is basically it. I thought the Nuggets, and I still think that they are one of, if not the best teams in the NBA. But man, Phoenix with their backs up against the wall, both games at home, able to get a 7-point win on Friday night and then a 5-point win last night. Devin Booker looks like Michael Jordan out there playing in the playoffs, and Landry Shamet couldn't miss last night, that was fun to watch. And now the pressure goes back, I think, on the back of the Nuggets a little bit, as you've got a 2-game apiece series now. This game could go the distance. It could go 7 games. I think we're in for, looks like right now, a pretty classic series.
Well, unless, and there's the big asterisk, Nikola Jokic is suspended for any reason. So if you didn't see what happened last night, there was a moment where a fan had a ball and Jokic was trying to get it back, and the fan sort of resisted, and Jokic kind of just, a slight little elbow, and the fan flops, basically, in my opinion. Jokic gets a tee. Another fan who was involved was ejected. Well, it just so happens that fan that flopped was the Suns owner, the Suns' new owner, Ishbia. Matt Ishbia. I don't know much about him, but I see that and I'm like, please don't make this a big deal. Like, don't take Jokic out of this series, NBA. Like, it was not that big a deal. Number one, he totally flopped. Number two, he was instigating a little bit. And, if it were a normal fan, I would probably feel different. But considering it's the owner of an NBA team, I feel like that dude needs to come out and be like, look, not a big deal. Let's not overblow this. Everything's fine. Don't suspend him. Like, that we don't, because you don't want that. Nobody wants that. I mean, he might want it for his team, and maybe that's why he flopped. I don't know. But let me ask it this way. Is that like next level ownership if that flop gets the other team's star player ejected? Or should he step in and be like, don't do this?
No, I mean, I think that it's a kind of a strategic advantage at this point, for Phoenix. I mean, when you've got the owner,
so he should go to the hospital and come into the next game with a sling. Yeah. Okay.
Wrapped up in bandages and, have a tearful press conference where he talks about the emotional distress that he suffered at the hands of Jokic. I mean, that would be the way to play it, right? But I don't think that's going to happen. I did watch it back a couple different times, and my first thought was Ishbia is trying to pull his own version of Mark Cuban, being courtside there, getting into it. And that's what Cuban has done. And this because you're a Texas guy. I don't know how much you follow the Mavericks, but Cuban gets into it. He stirs it up with, some of the players, and has over the course of his career. Not all owners are like that. Ishbia looks like he was trying to be that version, his own version of Mark Cuban in that moment.
I love it, and I don't mind that he's getting feisty. I think that that's fun and cool, and like I have no problem with it. I just hate that a moment that was not, again, to me and to my eye, like that was not that big a deal, right? Like it was, and again, it is different because it's an owner. If it's in, and I don't know if Jokic knew who it was at the time, probably didn't, but like I do think it should make it different. If it's a regular fan, your hands may be tied if you're the NBA. Your hands aren't tied here. Like you can make this one go away and leave, your 2 out of the 3 MVP player, 2 out of the last 3 on the floor, and let him be a part of the series. It's just going to be a real bummer if he has to miss time because of
I don't think he's going to miss time. I really don't. I mean, I have a
if
hard
that's a
time
fan
thinking,
though, if that's a fan and he shoves a fan, like that's what makes it hard. Like I hope he doesn't either, but I don't know if the NBA is going to have to on this.
I think it's a mistake if the NBA does that. If the NBA suspends Jokic for even a game, you're taking the best player on either team. And I know Devin Booker's been lights out, but I mean, Jokic is the best player on either team. You're taking him away for potentially a crucial game 5. I have a hard time thinking the NBA is going to do that. If they do, you're basically tying at least one hand behind the back of the Nuggets. And at that point, I mean, give it to Phoenix. I mean, Phoenix will have to capitalize on that. I don't think the NBA is going to do that.
I don't know. I mean, can you suspend him for like 10 games next year at the beginning of the year or something? Like let's make this happen. And by the way, you mentioned he's the best player on the floor. It's interesting because Devin Booker is on an absolutely historic tear. He's averaging like 36 points a game right now. And it makes me wonder when I see that Jokic, Durant, Booker all on the floor at the same time. Like, who is the best player on the floor when that happens? Jokic has the most recent, like, statistical advantage, obviously. Booker, we know who Booker is because we've seen it in the playoffs now so often. And Durant is, like, if you're going to, like, I still think Durant's one of the best players in the world anyway. It is. This series, I don't know if it's getting enough run for just the star power in it. Like, there's a ton of it. And we don't even have Chris Paul playing right now. And you've got DeAndre Ayton in there, who's been kind of a non-factor, but is a good player. And then all of that star power on the floor, but it's Landry Shamet, who's the story after the game in those threes. And I love when that happened. We've seen one of those out of Austin Reeves, former teammates, by the way, at Wichita State for the Lakers this postseason. Now we see like the Shamet game. And I hope that everyone's paying attention. Like, I hope that, that reputation of where those guys come from matters to recruiting and all that. But, man, you pull that tape right now. If you're Paul Mills, you get that on lockdown and show that Landry Shamet was doing that at Wichita State before he was in the NBA as a specialist like he has been. But just a great series so far. I'm glad Phoenix is in it. I don't even know. I can't decide who I'm rooting for in that series. I'm sort of rooting for both of them, honestly. I want one of those franchises to get their fans that championship. But not as much as I want to win money with the Warriors, but don't get me wrong here. But I think that that's cool. And all the Western Conference teams, I'm not going to root for the Lakers, but those three teams. And then I look East, I'm like, meh, I'm not going to really root for the 76ers, the Celtics, or the, or any of the East Conference teams. Like we're not doing that. Knicks, Heat, no, thank you. So it's gonna be West Coast for me, unless it's the Lakers. Then I don't know what I'll do. What do you think of the other series? So the Heat on Saturday go and take a decisive advantage and just get a massive win. Jimmy Butler was really good again. And then you've got the other series, which I think all bets are off in that Celtics 76ers series. 76ers get this one. They even it up. James Harden, I mean, they've sort of living and dying by James Harden. We talked about this on Friday, 42 points, almost a triple-double with 42 points. I don't know what to make, of the series there. I thought coming in that Boston would overmatch them, but I think that's the case anymore. I think the 76ers absolutely could win this series.
Well, I mentioned it on Friday. I think it was on Friday. Maybe it was on Thursday that I felt like this is kind of a situation where Boston is exposed a little bit. And I like Joe Mazzulla. I think that he was thrown into a tough position taking over as head coach, and he's
tough position. He was thrown into a fantastic roster.
He's never been a head coach before. Yeah, it's a fantastic roster, but I mean, he was not anticipating being the head coach of the Boston Celtics, and here he is. And I think that they were exposed a little bit just due, to his inexperience as a head coach. And I think that that's clearly when you've got a veteran like James Harden, when you've got the NBA MVP and Joel Embiid on the 76ers, they're going to find ways, to take it to you. And I think that Missoula's gotten out coached in this series without a doubt. I think that the Celtics have a great roster, but they haven't performed up to that level, I think, in this series. And, Harden, you mentioned it, kind of living and dying. The Sixers are, by his hand, and they lived by it in the game yesterday. And so I don't know. Again, it comes back down to that consistency. When Harden is on, yeah, that's great for the Sixers. When he's not, it becomes a question of who else, can step up. Can it be Embiid? He didn't have a great shooting night. He was, I think, 11 of 26 from the field. Joel Embiid was last night. So they needed James Harden in that series. And I don't know. I think that obviously you've got to look at that momentum being high on the Sixers right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that we're talking about out coach and you're bringing up Doc Rivers, who has a pretty bad playoff reputation. But yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I just like I watch it and it makes me wonder, like, is James Harden still that player, right? Like, is he capable one time of doing it? And I don't want to compare James Harden and Dirk Nowitzki in the way like that. I think James Harden is in Dirk Nowitzki's stratosphere of like all-time players or anything. But Dirk Nowitzki went through this too, right? Like all those years, all those regular season wins, the MVPs, the stats, all that stuff. And it was always like a postseason question. And they had the year where they had the massive upset where they were beat as a 1 seed. And then it just sort of stuck like, oh, he'll never get one. And then he did. Right. And then they finally did. And they beat the Heat. And it was glorious for Maverick fans. It was fantastic. It was awesome. And it solidified to me one of the all time greats in his career and his legacy, because I think Dirk Nowitzki is an all time great. And he was unguardable. James Harden is not as good as Dirk Nowitzki. So I'm not saying that, but I think he's got that same sort of thing happening. Dirk was a part of the team that had Steve Nash and Michael Finley, and, they could never get it done. And then he went, and then different, he didn't leave, but other rosters came in and they just could never get it. And they finally did. If this is the year the 76ers are finally able to do it, and James Harden's a big part of it, I wonder what it does to his legacy, because already it's been established, and this could change, I suppose. Joel Embiid could still, but this has been James Harden's run right now through the postseason. So, if they're able to do it and he's the reason why, which I don't see how they could win and him not be the reason why based on what we've seen, I wonder what it does for his legacy. I think it solidifies it. I don't even know what we think about James Harden's legacy anyway.
Yeah, I don't know what his legacy actually is.
Because
I've never looked at James Harden on any team that he's been on over the course of his career and thought he's the guy. Like, that's the guy that's going to get it done. I've looked at him and thought, okay, well, he's a good piece, as part of a team. Like, when you go back to,
I mean,
when you go back
give
to
him
the,
some credit.
right.
I mean, he's an incredible scorer.
You go back to the Thunder days when you've got Durant and Westbrook and then Harden. I mean, he was a key member of that team, but he wasn't the guy, right?
Right.
His days in Houston, I don't think he was the guy necessarily in Houston. So I don't know. I think it's a complicated legacy, but I do think that if he's able to take over this playoff run, lead the Sixers to the Eastern Conference Finals and beyond. I know you say cement his legacy, but cement his legacy as what? I don't really know. I don't really know where you place him or how you, in retrospect, look back on him.
I think he was the guy in Houston. I do think he was the guy in Houston. I don't think anybody else on those teams was like threatening his status as the guy. But I also I don't know that anybody ever thought those teams, and there were some really good ones. There were, he had Chris Paul for a minute, but he was the guy over Chris Paul. Chris Paul, I think he had Carmelo for a year when Carmelo was old, but he was pretty unquestioned there. But I get what you're saying, and I agree. Like right now, if the 76ers make a run and win this, at least based on what we've seen right now, I know Joel Embiid's the guy on that team, but Joel Embiid has not been the guy in this postseason. James Harden has when they're playing well. So I don't know. And again, I always think about him because I don't know what I don't know what his legacy is anyway. Like, we kind of knew, I use Dirk as the comparison. Like, we knew what Dirk's legacy was, right? Dirk was an all-time player who nobody thought could win the big one. Does anybody think of James Harden as an all-time player? I don't think so.
I don't think so. I mean, the difference between him and Dirk is that, obviously Dirk stayed in Dallas and, there were teams that were being built around him. Other than the stint in Houston, when has a franchise ever thought, let's build a team around James Harden?
I don't know. I'm Houston. Yeah. And that was a decent run, but his career, he's averaged almost 25 points a game over his career. And that's on years where, like those Oklahoma City years, those were incredible rosters, and he didn't score at that clip until he got to Houston. And then he sort of opened everybody's eyes to like, whoa, this dude is good. He had 3 years in Houston, Tommy, where he went 30 plus a game for 3 years. He had 36 points a game in 2017. He was an all-star until this year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years in a row. 14 years in a row James Harden was an all-star. I mean, that's incredible. So, like, I don't know, and his assists have been 10 plus 1,000 times, it seems like. Like, he's been really good. Really good. A career average for a player of 24 points and 7 assists a game. When a lot of those years, every year since 20, how many years is that now? And he's been traded a bunch. He's played 9 seasons in Houston. And in Houston, he averaged over those 9 years almost 30 points a game. 30 points a game and almost 8 assists while he was in Houston. And he's bounced around a little bit. But again, the career, about 25 and 7. Man, that's crazy good. And I don't think and I'm not saying we should think of him that way, because I don't. I don't. But it's going to change if Philadelphia does something special. I think it will change. And so that's something to watch there. I still think I'd pick Boston in that series. But the point of all of it is we got great series. Each individual series is good. I don't think Miami or New York is going to win an NBA title. Outside of that, I think all bets are off. But even in that series, it's going to be entertaining. Those teams have so much history. 869-1240, the IHOP hotline. What's on tap today? Well, we got to talk about Chris Kleiman and a new potential contract. That's coming up right after the break. We'll get into all kinds of fun stuff. Bronny has made his decision. We've got giveaways. In fact, let's give something away right now, Chad. Let's go Fast X here, as we've got plenty of these to get out of our hands and into yours over the next few days. So Fast X, it's the latest Fast and Furious movie. It hits theaters next week. We've got pairs of tickets, a special Thursday preview at Boulevard Theater Town West at 7 o'clock. Again, next Thursday, a pair of tickets to the first caller at the IHOP hotline during the break, 869-1240. We'll be right back with more Sports Daily.
Your phone call is welcome. 869-1240. Sports Daily.
Congrats, Blake, on the Fast X tickets, Boulevard Town West Theater, next Thursday. We're going to give away more pairs of tickets to those. We're going to have a lot of them to give away this week. Excited to do that. Love that partnership and love those opportunities. I don't know about you, Tommy. I am team movie theater. I want to be in the theater. I want more kids movies because, we can't really go without the kids. Every time we go, we have a blast. I want kids in with me, and it's going to be fun. All right, let's jump to the IHOP hotline real quick. Brady's on the line, wants to talk a little about James Harden. Brady, welcome into Sports Daily. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. I really appreciate the conversation about James Harden, and I just wanted to add that I think he's at a point in his career, at age 33, being coached under Doc Rivers, where he has an opportunity here to show tremendous leadership. One thing about him, going back to his days at Artesia High School in LA and Arizona State, and even the Oklahoma City Thunder in the incredible years he had in Houston, nobody's doubted the numbers he's had. I think the knock on him has been his defensive prowess or lack thereof and his clutch play. This is an incredible player at only 6'5", who is one of the better shooters in NBA history. Doc Rivers has a reputation because he played in the league and understands the emotions players go through, bringing out the best in players. He does. And I really think that this is an opportunity for James. He got out of Brooklyn okay, and he's got an opportunity here. They got a good nucleus in Philadelphia. So I really like what he's doing off the court with the Michigan State student and the generosity of spirit there. But I don't know, you guys. Like a lot of people in Wichita, I followed him when he was with the Thunder, and Sam Presti did not offer him a max contract. At the time, I didn't really understand that, being max contract.
Well, don't you think, though, at that time, Brady, I and it was a mistake. There's no question about that looking back. But at the moment, if you can only pick two of the three, which I think was the dilemma that they were, facing down, don't you think most people would have said you go Westbrook, Durant, even though it's very clear they should have gone Harden and Durant, right, and not Westbrook?
No, you're spot on. And what we found about Oklahoma City, not to change the narrative here of the story, those players did not want to be in Oklahoma City, and their agents were telling Sam that's why the Thunder have changed and gone toward an international movement. They want long-term players that want to stay in the area and appreciate the Midwest. Getting back to James, though, I have great faith in this guy. I really do. I see a spirit there. This is a critical time for him, and this is somebody that can score at will. It's his leadership and his defense and clutch play. Those are the intangibles. And you brought up a great analogy with Dirk Nowitzki. No, he is not a Dirk Nowitzki. One thing that Dallas loved about Dirk is his character. His character is incredible. And not to knock James. He's a tremendous player. But it's the leadership at this stage of his career, and it's this stage of the season. We know Embiid's coming off. He's got some issues with his knee, but he's had some good games. But we need James as the glue to.
I think we lost Brady there. Great stuff, Brady. I think we had just a little reception problem at the end. I agree. And this series has sort of been the microcosm. Like if they ever need that leadership, and it's going to come in the form of his scoring, which is pretty interesting, Tommy. That thing, like everyone's like, yeah, I can score a ton of points. They got to have it right now. Just look at this series. They were able to beat Brooklyn without him. But look at this series. In the two wins, right? 45 and 42 points. In the two losses, it's 16 and 12. Now, they need him to step up and be the guy, but it's going to come with the thing he does best, and that's score. And I don't know if they can get two more wins out of this series if Embiid's not good. But if they are, it's going to be because Harden just is nuts offensively.
And don't you think one of the best things to happen to James Harden was getting out of Brooklyn? I mean, that wasn't a great
Sure.
I mean, I think that his individual stats were good. He was named an all-star and all of those things, but there was so much drama, surrounding that Brooklyn super team that didn't work out. And I think that he's got the opportunity now, and not a lot of players get this, right? You have, a bad stint in one city with one team, getting a chance to, sort of redeem yourself a little bit with the situation and with a setting and a coach and a team around you that is, I think, so much better for you, not only individually, but being able to accomplish what it's been that you've been lacking throughout the course of your career. And so, to Brady's point, the leadership hasn't always been there for James Harden, but he's got an opportunity now with this team, with the Sixers, and working under Doc Rivers, to hopefully help that and improve that. I think the biggest question on everybody's mind is that, can James Harden lead a team to a championship? And the jury is obviously still out on that. But man, I mean, the individual stats are there. There's a reason why, I think this was a couple of years ago, the NBA named James Harden as one of its greatest players of all time. There's a reason for that. The individual stats have always been there with scoring and assists and all of that. Can he lead a team to a championship? That's the big question.
It is very interesting. You brought Brooklyn up, and it's almost like there's been two chapters. You had Oklahoma City where he wasn't the guy, where he was one of three, right? And then you had Brooklyn where he wasn't the guy, he's one of three. And it didn't work out for him in either of those places. Then he was thrust into a larger role with two other teams, Houston and Philly, and it's worked out better. Philadelphia is not going to win a title if Joel Embiid's not a part of it, I don't think. I just don't see that. But they might be able to win this series. And that's what will be interesting, and love it. Thanks for the call there, Brady. Good stuff. Good basketball fan, clearly there. 869-1240 is the IHOP hotline. Tommy, we'll probably take this for a little bit here, but Chris Kleiman, the news comes out yesterday from ESPN. I think it was Pete Thamel first reporting it. They're going to extend Kleiman, and we've sort of seen this coming, and it made us wonder, when it was sort of in the spotlight because of the basketball run of like, oh my God, they've got to get, they got to get Tang extended, but and we've talked about this with Tim Fitzgerald at length, like, yeah, but they've also got to get Kleiman extended. And, the good news, I think, for K-State fans is it never seemed like that was going to happen simultaneously, almost like Tang wasn't in a hurry. And it's probably because they knew this was coming. So the report is now a $44 million contract that runs through 2030. So be, I believe, 8 more seasons. But you've got, Kleiman, who's put together in 4 years a 30-20 record. He's 4 games over 500 in the Big 12. Of course, the big one was last year when they were Big 12 champions, beat TCU in the Big 12 championship game. $5.5 million per year. So not like the highest paid coach in college football by any means, but it's about $1.5 million raise. I wonder now, Tommy, because it's always been just a little bit of a question of like, God, what if Iowa comes open, or, what if one of these schools? I think, to me, when I see this contract, it makes me think this is the one that makes sure Kleiman's not going to go anywhere. It's hard for me to imagine, and maybe Iowa is still that way because he's got all the connections and the ties there, but it's hard for me to imagine like him taking another job now after a second raise that K-State's been willing to give him. And I think that that's fantastic news for K-State because clearly things have changed there. Now, I don't know what this does for Colin Klein long term, right? Because we wondered if Colin Klein getting a big extension and staying was sort of an insurance policy for Kleiman. So I don't know what that does there. I don't know if you can make him the Venables of Kansas State and just keep overpaying him, at least among his peers, as your offensive coordinator. And I know Klein's a big part of the recruiting. That part of it's a little bit interesting to me, but it's certainly good news today for K-State fans as Kleiman has seemed like the perfect fit in Manhattan to take over for Bill Snyder.
You brought up Venables, and this new contract for Kleiman that they're in the process of finalizing. This puts Kleiman in the top 3 in the Big 12 as far as coaches being paid, behind Mike Gundy and Brent Venables. And keep in mind, Venables in Oklahoma, they're not going to be in the league, a whole lot longer. So very soon, Kleiman will be right behind Mike Gundy as far as the highest paid coaches in the Big 12. It's deserved. I mean, without a doubt, it is. I think that locking in a coach like Chris Kleiman, who has not only improved the fortunes of Kansas State during his time in Manhattan, but also built a culture, done things the way that he's wanted to do them, and it's worked out. of course, the crowning achievement is winning the Big 12, playing in the Sugar Bowl last year. Of course, he was due a payday. I think that it is essential for Kansas State to lock him in, for as long as possible. And there could always be the draw and appeal of a program that he's got emotional ties to outside of Kansas State, like potentially in Iowa or something like that. But I think that getting a deal like this done, shows that Kansas State is not only committed to him, but committed to continuing to have a program that is competing for Big 12 championships. It's getting into the upcoming college football playoff, competing at the highest level possible. That's ultimately the goal. And by locking in Chris Kleiman, they're showing a commitment to try to do that year in and year out.
So you said this, and it's really interesting. Third highest paid coach in the Big 12, right? Venables, Gundy. That
Right.
means K-State fans right now, Kansas State, and this is what should, I think, bring supreme optimism for the future of this program. K-State's paying its football coach more than Texas is. And that is pretty wild to think about, right? Just imagine that reality. Kansas State is paying its football coach more than Texas is.
They're currently paying their football coach more than Sonny Dykes is making at TCU, and Dykes took TCU to the national championship.
But that's okay. That one, that doesn't have the shock value of, and really only Texas and Oklahoma do. Oklahoma State, obviously, with Gundy, why he's being paid that way. But to imagine in just and I was talking to a great K-State fan over the weekend about, Jerome Tang and the basketball program, and could we ever get there with, and I said, the basketball run has been fantastic and amazing and awesome, but it is not the top priority. I mean, as much fun as that was, and as much as this is a basketball state and fans want it, it is much better to be a great football school. And this solidifies you as a great football school. Everyone, you sell out all the games, all that's been good. Well, now all of a sudden your recruiting profile is intensifying immensely. All of a sudden you have a coach who had a long history of coaching up and being a part of NFL guys, right? Now that's translated. And we saw Skylar Thompson go to the league and, relatively speaking, find success in the sense that he can, his staying power when nobody thought he was going to be there, right? By the way, think about this. Nobody thought Skylar Thompson early in his career was an NFL guy. Definitely nobody thought Will Howard was an NFL guy early in his career. Skylar Thompson's in the league. Will Howard, I think, will be in the league. I'm telling you. And they also just went and added Adrian Martinez, by the way. If you have that kind of track record with quarterbacks and K-State becomes a quarterback factory, the rest will fall in line. And so, they are so set up for, and it's hard to even have the words come out of your mouth of more success than they were able to find under Bill Snyder, because that legitimately seems sacrilegious to say, but it's there with the NIL world that exists now and the transfer possibilities and this coach's ability to get quarterbacks to the NFL. And now the school has paid him. And now the facilities upgrade is coming. It's all lining up for K-State to become a legitimate football power. And that is the greatest achievement of any athletic department. I hope basketball stays awesome because I love it. And Jerome Tang is contagious and all these great things. This was priority one and they got it done. And I hope that it means long-term continuity because the fan base deserves this for sure.
Find me another program in America outside of Alabama and I guess Ohio State that develops quarterbacks like Kansas State does. I don't know if there is one. I think that, look at what they've done in the draft. It's difficult to do, and there have been multiple quarterbacks now that we're seeing.
Oklahoma for a while there did it
for
Lincoln
a while,
Riley.
But they're more of a
Lincoln Riley's going to have that track record, right?
They've got more of a defensive oriented head coach now, so I'm not sure that the quarterback development is going to be there for Oklahoma long term. I think Kansas State develops quarterbacks better than Texas does. I want to correct something really quick. I mentioned that Chris Kleiman is making more than Sonny Dykes. We don't know that because TCU is a private university, so they don't disclose the salaries. So we don't know how much Sonny Dykes is making, or Baylor for that matter. They could be up there. We just don't know that. But regardless, the new salary for Chris Kleiman, it does get him in the top 25 nationally. So you're paying a coach at the top levels, the top tier echelon, to develop quarterbacks, to get them to the pros, and to win Big 12 championships.
And culture matters, and he's always just been such the right fit in that way. I mean, at what point do you put like a Gene Taylor statue up somewhere? Because man, the guy just keeps getting it done for K-State.
He's made great hires that nobody would have thought of. That
and
would have
now
been as
two
good
extensions,
Yep.
extensions, right, for Chris Kleiman, and whatever NIL opportunities exist to land Avery Johnson. Dude's killing it. K-State is killing it. So tip of the cap to Gene Taylor for getting that deal done. Congratulations, K-State football fans. You deserve this one. It's a pretty exciting thing to happen. That it's getting some national run, which is good. But just that they can get it done and hopefully take a little of that stress away. Even though I think people were less stressed with Colin Klein, there was a lot of risk in that, and I think this takes some of the risk away. I think Kleiman now will lock in long term. All right, let's take another break. 869-1240. We'll get back to the IHOP hotline. It's open for your calls. Plenty more to come here on Sports Daily on a Monday edition. Turn a loss into a win with BetMGM, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Place a one-game parlay wager with at least 4 legs on any Major League Baseball game. If all legs of the parlay hit but one, you'll get your stake back in bonus bets, up to $25. Just log into your account or download the app and sign up with BetMGM to get started. Then opt into the one-game parlay insurance promotion to receive up to $25 back in bonus bets if your parlay with 4 legs or more loses by just 1 leg. Only at BetMGM, the best place to bet on baseball. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 years of age or older to wager. Kansas only. New and existing customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets. Bonus bets expire 7 days from issuance. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Welcome back in, everybody, to Sports Daily. Speaking of BetMGM, there's a Jimmy Butler to score 30 and the Heat to win bet right now, Tommy. That's boosted to plus 240. Those boosters, I'm always intrigued. If you think the Heat are going to win a game, though, and Butler to go over 30, I feel like the chances are pretty good for both of those things to happen. That's not a bad one. I may throw a little at that. How has your basket? Have you been betting at any of the NBA playoffs outside of what Chelsea tells us to do on Thursdays?
Outside of what Chelsea has told us, no. I mean, I'm following that almost to a T.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I've got, as good of a handle on, what's going to happen in the NBA outside of just what the stars are going to do. So I really follow what Chelsea says on Thursdays. And then I'm going on the BetQL app and things like that and finding, their 5-star bets. But really, other than that, no, I haven't done a whole lot on my own.
So I think on this one-game parlay promotion insurance, and I like these. I had a lot of fun with these, during football season and early in the basketball season was when I really was doing this, because you don't have to they don't all have to be toss up bets basically. So if I do that, and I think I will do this tonight just to tinker with it because I haven't done this one yet. I'll go to the Rangers Mariners, a game that I probably will be watching tonight anyway, right? And I'm just going to try something simple like hits. And I'm going to just go try to find 4 guys to get a hit in the game, right? Just get a hit. That's all it is. It's just to get a hit. And let's, if I took Marcus Semien, Julio Rodriguez, Josh Young, and Adolis Garcia, right? And I took those 4. You get boosted, and you got to do it as a one-game parlay and put it in that way. But let's just see if we can do it that way. I don't know yet. I haven't really started to mess with it in the one-game parlay deal, but we'll build that up. I'll tell you what. I'll put one together. How about this? I'll put one together during the break. We'll come back and we'll see what kind of odds I can get on it.
I will say one quick thing about the NBA, though. There is one 5-star bet on BetQL for tonight's games, and that's Golden State and the Lakers, the first half total over 110.5. That's the only 5-star bet out of the entire NBA slate tonight. First half total, the over in Golden State and Los Angeles.
I get down for that. I might hit that one. All right, 869-1240. Let's give away another pair of tickets to Fast X here as we make our switch into hour number 2. Again, Fast X, which is the latest Fast and Furious movie. I'm seeing the previews. It looks like it's going to be exactly what you think it is, which is, explosions and fast cars and awesomeness and all that stuff. We got a Thursday preview at Boulevard Theaters at Town West, 7 o'clock. You can go on us. Pair of tickets to the first caller, 869-1240 on the IHOP hotline. We'll be back. Hour number 2 of Sports Daily coming up.
Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor. This is Sports Daily on Wichita's #1 sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Hour number 2 of Sports Daily underway here on KFH. Tommy Castor, Jacob Albracht, Jad Chambers producing the show. Your calls, of course, at 869-1240 on the IHOP hotline. Anytime you want to chime in on the program, just feel free to do that, 869-1240. Jad will take your calls, have you join the program here. And, of course, a lot coming up here, a lot to get to here in hour number 2 on the program. Of course, you can join us on the video stream as well. We're on the KFH YouTube page, the KFH Twitter page, the KFH and Sports Daily Facebook pages as well. You can join the video stream there, Jacob.
Yeah, it's a great way to watch us as well as listen to us. So I was putting together this one-game parlay on BetMGM. We mentioned there's, parlay insurance where if you only miss 1 out of 4, you can get your stake back up to 25. So and I'm not saying I'll have to wait and see the starting lineups before I actually do this. But so I was like, all right, I'm going to watch I love when the Rangers play out on the West Coast because they're on a little later and I can watch more of the game. It's like, I'm going to be watching that game. Let me just take 4 players to get a hit and see what it does. So like I just put in Julio Rodriguez, Jared Kalinick, Ezekiel Duran, and Marcus Semien. Plus 350. That's not bad for each of those guys just to get a hit, basically, of any kind. Now, you can get more specific with it. I'm going to attack. And again, I'm going to wait. So that's not the bet I'll make. I'll wait to see the lineups later. But it's not a bad way. But just for the record, that's how you can do it. Congratulations to Tyler for heading to Fast X. We've had Tyler and Blake now win those tickets. We'll give away more of those throughout the week here. This week, as we make our way through, Tommy Bronny headed to USC. This has been cool. I've really enjoyed this story. Then you had LeBron James, congratulating him and mentioning it's the first person that he knows of in his family that is going to college. It's great for USC. Bronny has shot up the recruiting rankings this year. He's had a really nice year. He was, the McDonald's All-American, all that stuff. He's really shot up the board, makes USC good. But just as a dad here, I was really, of all the stuff happening, I was really hoping Bronny would end up somewhere right there. So just so that his family and his dad could come watch him play basketball, right? Seasons overlap, and it's going to be hard to do that for LeBron or whatever. I'm glad for just that reason. The fact that his dad's going to be able to come watch him play when his dad has to work that time of year, right? And travel and do all that stuff. That to me was the coolest part of this. I didn't ever really care where he ended up. I want to see him play college basketball. I'm excited we'll see him play college basketball. And USC to me makes a ton of sense, and I'm happy for his dad.
Yeah, I'm looking at this more from the perspective of not where he's playing his college ball, but what's going to happen. Because I know that LeBron wants to play with his son, right? That's going to be a big deal for LeBron to close out his career. He said that in interviews that he wants to at least spend one season sharing the court with his son. So, he'll play 1 year of college basketball more than likely. You would imagine he'll get drafted, but I don't know what kind of caliber of a player he is. Will he be a first-round pick? What does that look like? Will there be teams that will want to go get Bronny so they can maybe get his dad to come join and play a couple of years? And if that's the case, is a team willing to maybe reach a little bit on Bronny, maybe draft him higher than what they should,
absolutely,
just to get his dad on the roster too?
Yeah. And it would have to be, it would be a team that, because whether LeBron, I have a feeling LeBron would still be good at 40, right? Which is what he would be at that point. But you still get the hype of LeBron. So let's say you're a franchise. I don't even know what a good example is. Portland, right? That could use a little buzz, and you get a year of LeBron just for that reason. I think would have some value because LeBron wants to play with his son. That, he's said that before. And who knows? Maybe he can play with 2 sons if he can make it. If he can give it the Tom Brady treatment and play till he's 45. Maybe he'll come back out of retirement just for fun.
How about Cleveland? Could Cleveland make a run? To have LeBron.
I don't think Cleveland will be bad enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think Cleveland will be bad enough. They're pretty good, and on the up and up for sure. But I don't know what kind of player he's going to be. I have no idea. He's elevated his game. He had 15 and he made 5 threes in the McDonald's All-American game. So he's not like what LeBron James was. LeBron James was 6'9", right? He's 6'3". Right. He's a good shooter. He's a really good player. He was a 4-star even before now. And some have moved him up to 5 after his McDonald's All-American game performance. So he's a really good high school prospect, elite level high school prospect. He's not his dad. I don't think anybody is going into it. I'm going to just go ahead and say you can tune out and mute anybody that tries to compare him to his dad. I don't know that maybe people don't recall, but LeBron James is one of the greatest high school players we've ever seen, with as much hype and ability as any high schooler we've ever seen, in the history of basketball. So let's not do that. Okay. That'd be ridiculous at any stretch. Even if one of LeBron James's kids ends up elevate, his younger son, I think grew 6 inches all of a sudden and is now 6'7" and whatever. let's not do that because that's insane to do. Like, don't forget what LeBron James was, right? Coming out. We watched all his games on ESPN. I don't think, Tommy, we had seen that level of high school hype before LeBron James. And I don't believe that we've seen it after. I could be forgetting about, I mean, maybe Zion Williamson, maybe. It just doesn't exist. And
I think
nor should it.
The hype was there to an extent with Kobe, I think, when Kobe was in high school. Kevin Garnett, I think, when he was in high school.
Yeah, with those one and done players, yeah, but not like LeBron.
Yeah.
I mean, LeBron was, he was in like the level of hype for him coming, and then he delivered in the NBA. That's the other thing. Like right away, it was like, holy cow, And there have been other great young players that have done better or worse in their rookie years. It's not that. It's just like everything building up. Let's not draw those comparisons. And I think most people won't. One, because his son's not going to look like he did at that age, right? Like LeBron James looked like an NBA player at that point. Bronny doesn't. Bronny looks like a college basketball player. And I hope that we just watch him play and see how good a player is by all accounts. And, according to his dad and everybody else, great kid, always has been. Like, I don't think we're going to have the drama and the hype of the balls with LeBron's kids. I think he's just going to come in and he's going to play. Let's enjoy it. And again, like this whole time with this story, like for me, it's been, I'm so happy for a kid in a family who's never had anybody go and complete college. And I don't think Bronny's going to complete college in the traditional sense because he's probably too good for that. Maybe he's not. Maybe he is a 4-year player. I don't know. But the fact that his dad's going to be able to watch him play, like, again, as a dad, to be able to enjoy that way is awesome to me. And I know I'm getting old and I'm not this grizzled sports fan that, can take such a hard line approach. But man, that kid's going to get to play in front of his dad. His dad's going to get to watch him play. And this, in order to do that, he kind of had to be on the West Coast. And it's really cool. I like it. I think it's awesome.
If you are an NBA general manager and Bronny plays for a season at USC, and then LeBron comes out and says, I want to share the court with my son, and LeBron's 40, and you've got let's say a mid first round draft pick. You're an NBA, maybe, top 10 draft pick in the NBA. Are you willing to reach up high for Bronny, who I'm going to tell you right now is not going to be projected as far as his talent is concerned alone to be a top 10 draft pick in the NBA?
Not at 6'3". Probably.
Are you willing to reach for Bronny to potentially get LeBron? Or would you rather go the traditional route and get somebody that could be a franchise-altering player long-term? Or are you willing to sacrifice that for a year or two of LeBron and Bronny playing next to each other?
No, inside the lottery, you can't do that because you're inside the lottery probably because you stink. And we see it too often in the NBA with Doncic and Jokic and Giannis and all these guys that, they're not like the clear-cut top number one pick when they come out. You've got to still take swings at those guys. I don't know. LeBron says this now. If Bronny's not ready and he's more of a college player, more of a multi-year college player, I imagine LeBron's tune is going to change. What if Bronny just loves college, right? With the NIL opportunities he has, doesn't he have, and his brother, one of them or probably both, have just an insane social media following. They're going to be able to make a bunch of money in college. So it's not that they need money. Their dad's LeBron James, but you always want to make your own. I get it. I think that tune will change. And if you're LeBron, like, dude, take a year off, wait for him then, right? Like, it doesn't have to be right then. If you're already 40, just stay in good physical shape. You're LeBron James. Like, you're going to be able to play at an old age unless something catastrophic happens physically. Like, you'll be fine. So just hang tight. And then, Tommy, what if the other son, is it Bryce? What if the other son, who is, I believe, a sophomore, goes to USC, and now those brothers could play together at USC and you're LeBron James? What has more value? Like, go watch those guys play together on the same team in college. How awesome would that be? And then let them both come to the NBA, right? Like, so I don't know. I think it's a pipe dream. I think it's fine for him to say that now, but I don't think anybody's going to put undue pressure on Bronny to be more than he is. He's 6'3". He's a really good basketball player. He's probably going to be a great college basketball player. And guys that are 6'3" have success in the NBA all the time. Maybe he takes the next step and we're all just like, holy cow, this dude's a lottery pick. I mean, I think that's possible. That's totally possible, especially if he shoots like he does in the McDonald's All-American game. But it's a really interesting story. I think that, honestly, I don't think this thing's got overhyped or too much hype. Do you?
No, I don't think
like,
so. No.
I think
I don't have a problem
there
with
was
it.
always this fear of this season for Bronny being overhyped and overblown. And I absolutely don't think that's happened. And I think that this has been, and I don't know who deserves credit for this, honestly, but somebody does, that we didn't do this to this kid, because I don't think it's been done at all. We've all been interested in his recruiting because he's a really high-level basketball player. He's a McDonald's All-American. We all want to know where he's going to go play. But I think it's been appropriate, the amount of attention and everything else that's gone into this. I think it's been just fine. And again, whoever deserves that credit, good for all of us for not doing that.
The other piece of this entire story that we haven't even talked about is this a game-changing signing for USC? Does this make USC
absolutely.
a better team in the
Yes.
Pac-12? Does it make them I don't know, a team that you could look at and say, hey, they could be a solid tournament team? Like, does the addition of Bronny improve the outlook for the Trojans? And honestly, I think so. I don't know the answer to
Absolutely
that for sure,
it
but I would
does.
think that, somebody that caliber can certainly come in and help right away.
Let's go to 247 and let's just look at their recruiting class here. Let me go to let's go to the Pac-12 here. So now they are the fourth best in that class. They have another 5-star. Well, apparently is the national number 1 player, Isaiah Collier. I don't know about that. And then another 4-star. So yeah, I think it does, right? I mean, it puts him up there in the Pac-12. And I think when the Bronny thing becomes official, it'll even take it higher. But yeah, I mean, I think they've got a nice class. It definitely makes a difference. I think they could win the Pac-12. It puts them in, nationally inside the top 30 in recruiting class. And again, I think that's going to go up. But that's cool too. Like, I think USC basketball is cool. They've had some cool teams over the years.
Shout out Andy Enfield. I mean, that program has been up and down over the last decade or so, and, not always able to find its footing. And I think Andy Enfield has done a good job in recruiting. I think it helps, that now you've got, the program, the university moving to the Big Ten soon. But yeah, I mean, it's a big get. I didn't realize they had the number 1 recruit in America coming and playing for them. So that's a big deal too. I don't know. I mean, of course, we know the Pac-12 historically, outside of Arizona last season, not very strong. So this could be a good year for them for sure when you've got Bronny and some other guys coming in.
Yeah, there's and I'm a little confused now because 24/7 has, then you go to their player rankings and one other player ranked higher. But either way, he's number 2 if he's not number 1. So we'll see. It'll be a very interesting year in college basketball. Bronny will make it more interesting. He'll give us more reasons to watch late games, right? Like, that's going to be, that'll be the advantage too for USC and the networks, is that he went West Coast. Like, if you're a network that gets West Coast Pac-12 late night games, you're going to put Bronny on as often as you can. And that's, I like that. I think that's great. I think that's awesome, and gives us a reason to do that. But 869-1240, the IHOP hotline. Bronny goes to USC. I've been pleased with the way this story's been handled, and I think it's a pretty cool moment. So that's out there. If you want to talk about that, we got into the Chris Kleiman contract just a little bit before we get into hour number 2. We can go back to that. Still waiting. No news on Nikola Jokic after the shove, whatever you want to call it, last night. Plenty more to come here on Sports Daily. The flop, yeah, it was definitely a
Yeah.
flop. It was totally a flop. There's no question about it. The Royals also out there on the table. Wichita State baseball to talk about. Get you ready for Wichita State softball. The Royals dropped 2 or 3 to Oakland. Not a good start to this critical stretch that we had pointed out for them. Lots on the table there for you. For Sports Daily, we'll come back, have more right after this.
access to Jokic. And that right there, that elbow right there after the ball was kind of fumbled into the air, and a little bit of maybe a flop from Ishbia there. Wow.
Woo. I'm just seeing Mike Malone's comments after. He said when he was asked about it, I think it's crazy that Nikola got a technical foul. He's going to get the ball and some fans holding it like he wants to be a part of the game. Reporter says that fan was the owner of the Suns, and Malone's response is, I don't give a blank, which is, to me, accurate. I love it. Man, they better not pop Jokic. We're still waiting on that.
There's no chance they'll suspend him for this.
Yeah. I mean, it took Draymond kicking a dude in the jewels to get a one game, which is far worse than this. So hopefully cooler heads prevail. Again, I'm on the fence on whether the Suns, owner should show up in a sling to the next game or to work today, or if he should be like, don't suspend him for that. It was partly my fault too. I don't know. I don't know what the better, like from an outsider's perspective, it's like, do the right thing and tell him not to suspend him. But if I'm a Suns fan, I'm like, yeah, come in a leg cast. Like, let's go. Let's do the right thing here. Let's get through this series. I don't know. We'll watch for that news. Wichita State baseball, disappointing weekend. Two close ones to Houston. Down in Houston, they fall, and then the third game is canceled. So now they sit in the standings from first to third. We wondered what it would take for East Carolina, who's probably going to go on a tear here. But now they're 2 games back of Houston and a game and a half back, I believe it is, of East Carolina in the AAC standings. And left on the schedule still those 6 conference games. So there's time for movement here. And then they get their final midweek game against Oral Roberts, which is actually their best RPI game remaining. That one's tomorrow night. But a disappointing weekend for the Shocker baseball team, who had found ways to win so many close ones lately. They couldn't get 2 close ones against Houston, and they don't get the chance at the third.
Yeah, that's rough. Not the way that you wanted that weekend series to go for Shocker baseball. They had a ton of momentum going into this weekend series, and playing a team like Houston that you got to get the wins against if you want to try to win a league title. Not the way that you wanted it to go. And then, of course, kind of adding insult to injury, not being able to play the final game, in that series on Sunday. So disappointing. They've got to bounce back from this. They now find themselves, kind of on the outside looking in as far as winning a league championship. They can still obviously do it, but they're gonna have to, win at a pretty large clip here moving forward.
Yeah, and look, like I think the one thing the baseball team has shown us is when they get into the tournament, they're going to have a puncher's chance. They've got good enough pitching to do that, and that may end up being what we get to, and that's okay too. That gives us excitement. Conference tournament for Wichita State softball begins this week. They'll play the winner of Tulsa Houston on Friday. Wichita State softball absolutely needs to win this conference tournament. They may not anymore have that loss to Kansas is going to hurt. How badly, we don't know. They're going to be a postseason team one way or the other. I don't know how likely hosting a regional still is. I'm not sure. I think we have Saul this week. Did we have Saul last week or do we have him this week? We can ask
we have him this week. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll ask him the latest on that and what he thinks about that. That'll be good timing because it'll go right into the conference tournament. And so we'll get the latest on that, but certainly it's one that they want to win for a billion reasons. And then the NCAA regionals, wherever they're played, begin next weekend on the 19th. So we'll see on that. But, it's interesting. They've got time to prepare. I think they're going to have a nice tournament here. I think they'll have plenty of motivation. They'll be mad about the Kansas game, and Shocker softball will just finish things up here before we get them ready for the postseason.
Yeah, they've got, quite a bit of opportunity in front of them, right? I mean, kind of right on that bubble to be able to host a regional. That's the way that it's been for the last several weeks, right? And so really they hold the power in their hands. If they continue to win at the clip that we've seen them do that, I don't know. Again, I think that you've looked at it more recently than I have as far as their prospects of hosting a regional or not. So I don't know if that is still a likely chance or not. But regardless of that, I know that getting into postseason play for the softball squad They've shown this season they can beat the top opponents in the country. They did that with Oklahoma State twice, both at home and on the road. So they've got that opportunity to do that in the postseason. And I think that you feel more confident about the likelihood of them doing that than you have had in seasons past. So, of course, postseason knocking on the doorstep right now. We'll see how it goes.
Good luck to both. I'm excited about this softball tournament. I'm really excited. I mean, this is maybe new. I'm more excited to get through like the conference tournaments. Like, all right, it's there, but it's almost like it's in the way, right? Like it's just kind of in the way right now. Let's get to the.
I mean, what do you think it takes, for the conference tournament? Like, what do you think the Shockers have to do? Do they have to win the American tournament to host a regional?
To host a regional? Yeah, I think so. But I don't know, and I still don't know if that's enough now. We'll see. We'll talk to Kevin Saul about it. I'm not sure, and maybe some other things need to happen with some of the other teams, most notably Oklahoma State, Arkansas. I mean, Oklahoma's in no danger, but they have wins, 2 over Oklahoma State, 1 over Arkansas. So you never know. We'll see. I'm not sure, and it would be really cool for the fans. But the other thing is for the fans, if they end up in Stillwater, Shocker fans are going to be able to go to that. And hopefully there are tickets available for them to do that. All right, you sent me this, Tommy, as we were talking about it. I guess Ishbia has made his decision on whether he, really goes all in on the flop and, tries to get Jokic, suspended. We're joking about this. I don't know if this was never an option, just, whatever. But it sounds like he's going to do what's the right thing and say, don't suspend this guy.
Yeah, Ishbia got on Twitter and said, great win for the Suns last night and an amazing series so far. That should be and is the only story. Suspending or fining anyone over last night's incident would not be right. I have a lot of respect for Jokic and don't want to see anything like that. Excited for Game 5. Go Suns. I would imagine that puts it to bed right there. I don't think Adam Silver is going to do anything with this. He shouldn't. I don't think there should be any kind of punishment for Jokic. I'm glad to see Ishbia responding in that way.
Yeah, me too. It is the right thing. The other would have been really, really funny, though. And maybe he could still pull that off. Like after, you could probably appease your like after Jokic, maybe the decision's made, maybe just for fun, show up in a cast anyway. Just to
wear
rub
neck
it,
brace
rib him
to
a little
the,
bit.
to the
Yeah,
arena.
neck brace.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Just to mess with him. Because then you're still messing with him, right? You're getting in the psychology of it. It is. Did you see this story, Tommy? I don't think it's that big a deal, but it's interesting. It has to do with Andrew Luck. So Colts owner Jim Irsay came out and, basically said Luck's off limits. The Colts own his rights if he ever decides to come back into the league. And Irsay's basically saying that's tampering. You don't get to communicate with Andrew Luck. This is interesting. The Colts just made their decision to go with Anthony Richardson. I don't think Andrew Luck's coming back to play football based on everything that he said and we've read and everything else. But why do you think it's necessary for Irsay to come out and do this? Do you think there's any chance? And the only thing that I would make me is like, he's only coming out to say this because he feels like there's a chance, but I've never felt like there was a chance Luck was going to come back.
No. Why is this even a story? I mean, Andrew Luck retired
4
years ago.
Well, because Washington reportedly inquired about him last year.
Okay, great. He didn't play for him. Andrew Luck, I don't think, has any desire to play in the NFL ever again. I really don't. I mean, he retired early. Caught everybody off guard when he did, and then the likelihood of him coming back has diminished year after year after year that he's been gone. That's great. I don't have a problem, honestly, with Washington asking the question, and then I don't have a problem with the Colts saying no. I mean, technically he's our property. And then I don't have a problem with Andrew Luck being like, no, I'm not going to play. I mean, I feel like this is a big nothing.
Well, it's not
at
a
all.
problem. It's just, it's what the only thing that's interesting, and Irsay's a wild card anyway, but like the only, why else would he feel the need to go out there unless something happened where he thought this might be a possibility,
Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. Andrew Luck's not coming back. I mean, he's done. He's done. And so I don't I don't have a problem with, Jim Irsay is a businessman, right? I mean, he paid a contract to Andrew Luck. And
Oh, I don't have a
even though
problem with
Andrew
Irsay
Luck,
saying it either. I'm not saying I
yeah,
have
I
a
don't have an
problem
issue.
with
Like,
Irsay by any means.
yeah,
I'm just saying it's curious that this needed to happen in the first place because I never really paid too much attention. I I just never paid too much attention to the fact that Luck might come back. And
he's
if
not
he
coming
did,
back.
I
Not
don't think
coming
so
back.
either. I don't think so either. It's a very, very strange little headline to see this morning as I'm, just sort of going through things. I'm like, wait, what? Andrew Luck? Why is this in the news? Tommy, you sent me this story too. I'm going to fully admit I don't really understand it, but I guess there's some confusion and pushback from the Chiefs playing in Germany and who they play. And I don't know. I think you got to be a diehard to be into this story. I don't fully understand how this works, but I guess like who they play is in question to some degree.
Yeah. So of course it's been, long discussed and long talked about that the Chiefs will be playing in Germany, right? Of course, now we're at the point of the season or the off season where the league is planning out the schedule and, putting different teams in different places. There's been a lot of speculation on who the Chiefs might play in Germany. We know that, they are going to be giving up a home game to be able to play in Germany this season. And there are a list of potential opponents that the Chiefs could be facing off in that game in Germany. Apparently, Kansas City, this is according to Peter King, by the way. He was writing in the Football Morning in America column for NBC. He is saying that he's being told that Kansas City does not want to play Chicago overseas. They've got the Bears on the schedule for next season. According to Peter King, the Chiefs do not want to play the Bears in Germany. I'm not sure why. I don't really know what the reasoning behind that is. And then there was also speculation that Carolina could be an opponent, not for this coming season, but for the next season. And there's some pushback on that too, because apparently Carolina thinks that maybe they don't want to have Patrick Mahomes not go to Carolina and play because of the ticket sales there. They would rather keep Patrick Mahomes and have them play in Carolina as opposed to playing in Germany. So there's a lot of moving parts to this. But as it stands right now, according to Peter King, there might be some pushback on who the Chiefs play in Germany.
Number one, if you're a Chiefs fan, who cares who you play? You'll play anybody over there. I suppose that there is some value for the Chiefs in trying to get that game if you're going to have to give up the home game to be like a really high quality opponent, right? Like, let's play Buffalo. If we can't play them at Arrowhead, let's play them in Germany, right?
Well, but that's the other thing too. That's the other part of the reporting.
But
for
you're
Peter
giving
King
up that home game.
Well, not only that, but you're putting them in an early window. Keep in mind, you play in Germany, that game's going to start at 9:00 in the morning. So why would the league want the Chiefs to play the Bills or the Bengals or the Eagles? All three of those teams are on their schedule at 9:00 on a Sunday morning when the ratings are not going to be very high for that time slot. Why wouldn't you want to put them in prime time?
Oh, I know the league would rather see the Chiefs play a not good team over there. Like, I get that part of it. I just can't understand why the Chiefs don't want to play the Bears over there. Because to me, if you've got to give up a home game and you have your pick, you want it to be the home game against what you perceive as the worst team you'll play. That's what doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I mean, if they're like next level strategizing that on short rest and a long trip, maybe the hardest thing to defend would be Justin Fields running all over the place. I mean, that to me is
Maybe.
like, no, there's no way. Like, what are we
Maybe.
doing here? I just don't understand this story. And I don't really care. I think sometimes, like, I'm more of a, you just play your schedule, right? Like, if you're the Chiefs, the schedule is not going to be the reason you do or don't win a Super Bowl. Just play your schedule. Who cares, right? You're the best team. You're the best team. Go play the schedule. Doesn't really matter. I mean, it matters. It matters whether you have home field advantage and all those things. But if you're the Chiefs, you think you're the best team anyway. Just, you'll go play in a parking lot. Like, you just go play. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
I guess
also,
the hardest thing
by the
for
way,
the story for me is I just don't understand this. I don't understand what's at stake here.
And I don't know the reasoning as to why allegedly the Chiefs have requested to not play the Bears overseas. I don't know. I do understand Carolina's perspective though in 2024 because I think this is like the only time in almost a decade that Patrick Mahomes will actually travel to play the Panthers. So why would you want to play that, give up that home game, move it
Sure.
overseas? Because you know people are going to show up in Carolina to watch Patrick Mahomes play.
Totally agree. And if you're the NFL, you want a nice spotlight over there in Germany. And just because you're trying to grow the game there. So from the NFL's perspective, I get it. I just don't understand all the ins and outs and strategies of why it matters, and then why you wouldn't want to play potentially the worst game on your schedule over there would be my thing. And the Bears aren't going to be good yet, not good enough yet to compete with the Chiefs. So go play them over there if you're going to have to give up a home game. But I don't know. When schedules come out soon, right? Like is that this week?
Yeah, and that was the other point of the reporting, was that Peter King is reporting that while the NFL plans to release the schedule on Thursday, there might be a delay. So we might not see it this week. It might be more like next week.
It's crazy when your NFL team's good that like this is going to get run. Like this story's going to get a lot of run, and it's like, what are we doing here? Like, are we that obsessed? We might need to take a look at our lives if like this is what we're losing sleep about this week. But I'm right there with you. I'm not criticizing anybody. I'm the same way. The NFL, the ways it finds to dominate the headlines is something else. It's a unique skill that is the reason they're the top team. All right, let's give some tickets away here before we take a break. We'll come back. I want to spend a little more time with the Chris Kleiman news if you're just joining us on the show. By the way, thanks for joining us on the video stream, Facebook, YouTube, on the KFH pages. You can find us on the Sports Daily Twitter page also. And, of course, to everybody listening. Let's go to the IHOP hotline right now. Fast X tickets, sneak preview at Boulevard Town West Theaters next Thursday. We'll give away another pair. 869-1240. Jad will get us a winner. We'll come back. Kleiman. Big contract, K-State football, big spotlight. We'll talk about it next on Sports Daily. All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily on KFH. Glad to be with you. Happy to be here. Michael wins the latest round of tickets to Fast X. We've had Blake, Tyler, Michael, all going on Sports Daily next Thursday. Congratulations to all of you guys for winning that giveaway. Call into the IHOP hotline, 869-1240, to get your chance to do that. All right, let's talk more about Chris Kleiman's deal here for just a few minutes. If you missed it in the first hour, if you missed the news sort of late yesterday, K-State getting ready to sign and finalizing a deal, according to Pete Thamel last night, $44 million through 2030, 5.5 a year. Of the public schools, puts him third in the Big 12 behind Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, but ahead of Texas. Solidifies Chris Kleiman's status, I think, in Manhattan for the long term through 2030. I mean, if Kleiman's in Manhattan through 2030, that you're looking at, fantastic news for K-State. I don't know though, Tommy, and this is what we didn't. So that would be, he's 55 now, that'd have him till 62. I don't know what the long-term prospects with Colin Klein are. And this is going to get really interesting because Colin Klein, remember, turned down some big-time offers from some big-time programs to stay in Manhattan. I don't know that he's going to do that forever. Now, Venables did it for a long time, so maybe money talks and happiness matters, and you can somehow come up with like a coach in waiting, but how long are you going to wait, especially for Klein? Because if K-State keeps developing these quarterbacks and recruiting them the way that they have been, I mean, he's going to his offers will elevate, I would think, at that point to the NFL level. And I just don't know how much longer you're going to be able to do that. That's the part of this that is interesting to me. Great news that Kleiman's extended, like awesome, status securing kind of news for Kansas State's football program. But it does make me wonder a little bit about Colin Klein.
I think there are two guys that will help determine what ends up happening with Colin Klein long term, and that's Will Howard this season and Avery Johnson after this season. Depending on the way that those two guys develop and knowing how big of a role Colin Klein plays in the development of quarterbacks on that roster, if Will Howard is an NFL quarterback after this season, and then if Avery Johnson comes in and lights the world on fire, and you can point to Colin Klein as one of the major reasons as to why, then I think that's going to help play a part in, other programs, either at the collegiate level or even NFL teams throwing bags of money at Colin Klein to come in and help them develop their quarterbacks. So I think that that's going to play a large role in it.
I do too. I mean, and it's rightfully so, right? And if you're Klein, I think in the short term, the Klein's reason to stay in K-State was about 12-fold, right? One, you're there, the history, all that stuff. You're aligning yourself with a head coach that knows how to do this too and has done it for a long time in Chris Kleiman. And for what you just talked about, if you're betting on yourself and you're Colin Klein and you're doing this, yeah, you've got the chance now to send two more guys. Like, let's say in a best case scenario that Will Howard develops into one of the top, 5 quarterbacks taken next year. I, by the way, absolutely think that's a possibility. And then after that, all bets are off with Avery Johnson in the way that quarterback's being played at the NFL level. And a lot of things, I'm not trying to put that kind of pressure on Avery Johnson. I'm just saying, the resume coming into college is as high as anybody at K-State's ever had. So if those two worked out and you get them both into, the top 5 quarterbacks taken in the league, it could be better, could be worse. Then, yeah, I think if you're Colin Klein, literally everybody's going to want a piece.
Yeah.
And
the other thing
so,
to keep in mind,
quantify that.
The other thing to keep in mind with Klein, I mean, the guy is younger than both of us. He's like, 34, 33, 34. If he wants to be a head coach at the collegiate level, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we've ever talked about Colin Klein as an NFL head coach, but if he wants to be a head coach at any level, he's young. He's got plenty of time.
Riley.
I know, but he's got plenty of time, to make that happen.
No, I just mean look at Lincoln Riley, where teams will absolutely take that sort of risk after now Lincoln Riley got his, Bob Stoops took care of Lincoln Riley, right? Like, and it seems like anyway on the surface. Chris Kleiman is not where Bob Stoops was at that moment. I don't think Chris Kleiman's going to be done before this, before 2030. I just don't know what that dynamic is, and I don't know how. Like, if I'm K-State, if I'm Gene Taylor, who again they ought to be considering like banners for this guy at this point. But if I'm Gene Taylor, I'm like, all right, what are my priorities? Priority one was just completed according to this report, and that's get Chris Kleiman extended, and put him in the place where you don't have to worry about it, and you don't. He's now one of the top 25 paid coaches in the country. You've got him in good placement in your league, and when Oklahoma leaves, then he's going to be right at the top. So all that's accomplished and good. Next priority, let's get Jerome Tang taken care of. And that urgency is not for me any faster than like end of next season, probably. Because I do kind of in the back of my head kind of want to see what happens in year 2. And then the third priority would be like, what on earth could we do to keep Klein? Now they just did it, but I don't know what it took to keep Klein this last time. But can you do it again? Because to me, that's like the priority and power ranking of importance of coaching extensions. Kleiman, Tang, Klein. And I don't know. And at some point, even for like if you're the biggest K-State fan in the world and the opportunity like it existed for Lincoln Riley at the time or Cliff Kingsbury at the time, right, is another good comparison to go back and be the head coach. Like if that presents itself somewhere, like you're going to have to wish him well and root for his success, because you can't keep like if a big time program comes and wants you to be their head coach and that's what you ultimately want to do, you got to take that shot at that point. K-State will always be there for him. And the reason I bring all this up that's just interesting to me, and I'm not like I'm not trying to stir controversy or anything. But it is sort of like you got to take your pick, right? Is it Kleiman or Klein? And I've worried about this for a long time because you can see Klein's impact on recruiting and everything, and he's the next guy. But at the same time, you're achieving this great success right now with Kleiman. So are you, keep this train rolling and roll with? And we'll ask Fitz this because I think it's fascinating. Or are you, oh no, but it's going to cost us Colin Klein? I don't know. I don't know if anybody's that worried about that, but I certainly have thought about it.
Well, I think the fact that, he turned down Notre Dame, he kind of brushed away overtures from Alabama. It sounds like, according to reports, he's committed for now to Kansas State. But that Colin Klein, at least you would think, has ideas and visions of the next step, right? And I don't blame him.
I don't know that part, but what I do know is other schools are going to have the interest. Whether he does or not, I don't know. Like, I have no idea. You never know what somebody's ultimate motivations are. Luke Barnwell at Sunrise Christian has had big time offers. He didn't want to take them. So you never know what somebody's motivation is, but like, I don't know. What I do know is other teams are going to come calling. And then it's like, okay, well, what are you going to do? Because they've already come calling. And I think they're about to send another quarterback to the league, and Will Howard. And then Avery Johnson, all bets are off. Good for K-State fans, though, on the Chris Kleiman news. That's awesome that this last sequence of the last 12 months for a fan base that absolutely deserves it. Let's hope Kansas can follow suit with Lance Leipold and they continue to build some of that momentum too. And now the falls become like the winters here in the state of Kansas in totality. 869-1240. We'll come back. We'll wrap it up, tell you what's on tap the rest of the day on the network on Sports Daily.
Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
All right, everybody, that does it for a Monday. Busy Monday. Thanks, everybody, for watching on the video stream. Of course, thanks for everybody for listening, calling in on the IHOP hotline as well, 869-1240. Coming up today, Jim Rome at 11, Bob and Jeff from 2 to 4, Maggie and Perloff, and then Zach Gelb. Then we've got the Lauren Hibbs Show tonight at 6 o'clock right here on KFH. Softball's getting ready for that conference tournament, so we'll join the Royals at 7 after the Lauren Hibbs Show. All coming for you today. For Chad Chambers, for Tommy Castor, I'm Jacob Albracht. We'll be back tomorrow with more Sports Daily.